All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Perspective Matters, this week in behavioral healthcare. I'm your host, Glenn Hadley with Southworth Associates, and just want to thank you guys for joining us today. I hope that y'all are having a great Thanksgiving week and taking a holiday from your normal work week. We certainly are. So just here, I'm gonna do this for a second. I want to welcome you guys into my house, and we're here for the holidays, just kind of hanging out and figured it'd be good to do a little fireside chat with my good friend Dan Caldwell, and so just want to really thank you guys for being here and being a part of the show and joining us today. Before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor, Southworth Associates and Dreamscape Marketing, for allowing us to do this. And man, I'll tell you something. Without these guys, this show isn't possible. And so if you get the chance, go check out the Southworth Associates side or Dreamscape Marketing. So if you have any intervention needs or professional monitoring needs, you can reach out to Southworth Associates. We also do consulting from all different walks of the behavioral healthcare space. And so you can rely on the staff of Southworth Associates to answer any questions that you may have about either helping you or a loved one get into recovery services, or if you have a business out there and you have a question, you can definitely reach out to us, and we have years of knowledge and experience to share with you, and we'd love to talk with you about that. Also, if you have any marketing needs in the substance use space or behavioral healthcare, you can reach out to the team at Dreamscape Marketing. They've been doing wonderful work. So before I get started today, I want to introduce you guys to my guest, Dan Caldwell, and I'm gonna tell you just a little bit about Dan and who he is before we get into this. So Dan holds a master's degree in professional counseling and is a licensed chemical dependency counselor. He's a certified clinical supervisor for LCDCs, which I think is pretty fantastic. He's a certified clinical trauma professional and a nationally certified intervention professional, and has worked in the field of addiction recovery for a decade. And much of that time was spent at one of the local Houston area treatment centers. He also has extensive experience working with individuals and families who have difficulties with substance use and other behavioral health and relationship matters. Dan has secured years of experience working with the recovery community as a professional in detox, residential, intensive outpatient, group and individual counseling settings, and has been a part of the recovery community for more than a decade as well. Along with the master's degree in professional counseling, Dan has also completed certification courses offered from Yale University and Johns Hopkins University, and is currently providing services as an adjunct professor at the University of St. Thomas. And I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about that, because I think that's one of his favorite things right now. So with that, I'm just really honored to have Dan with us today. And Dan, man, welcome. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Hey, Glenn, thanks for having me. That introduction sounds fancy. I'm looking around. I'm like, wait, who is this guy? Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. We're glad you're here, and I'm glad you could make it, because I know that you weren't feeling well getting this deal, and then also, like, you're right in the middle of an intervention right now. So like I am. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's the first one I've done out of country. But the good news is they're getting on the plane as we speak. We're all good.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So getting into, I like to ask everybody that comes on the show, like, how did you get into this world of behavioral healthcare? Because, you know, it's funny, every time we talk about it, and I kind of joke around that, like, nobody, like, you know, whenever they're 10 years old says, you know what, I think I want to be like an astronaut, a fireman. I know, a counselor. Yes, I want to with their behavioral healthcare issues. How did you get into this deal?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Well, I certainly did. I didn't know what a counselor was as a kid. We just swept all our stuff under the rug. We didn't worry about that. No, I'm sober a little over 11 years. So that clearly is my reason behind what I do and the population I work with. My journey's a little different than most. I painted houses for about 20 years. I had my own company for 10. We were rocking and rolling. But I got some lung issues. And so I had to literally shut my business down overnight. So it gave me a new perspective on how people can lose everything they have. This was a legit overnight loss. And I didn't have any education. I had a GED, but really no skills other than house painting. And I was literally driving I'd gotten sober in August of '09, and I was in school in January 2010 for this field. But I was driving down the road, poor me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I have no skills. And I was with this person who's trying to encourage me, and they're like, no, you did your taxes. I'm like, well, TurboTax did that. And well, you sold to the customers, you did this, you did that. And I'm like, we opened this Lone Star book up, Lone Star College, a local community college here in Houston, and literally it opened to counselors. And this person pointed right there and said, you could be a drug and alcohol counselor. So at that point, I had just been in AA for a few minutes, literally. Like I'd been around for many years, but I tell you the same thing people tell me is it's different this time. I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt because it was different for me that time. And I jumped into that process and I said, I'm all in, and I haven't looked back. So I literally, and then a series of events, I got on at Lone Star Montgomery up in Conroe and here in Texas. And they put me at a mental health facility, a state funded called Tri-County, I believe it was called. They're in the middle of a 16-week practicum course. Their program shut down, their substance use. It's since reopened, but so I'm like, I'm halfway through. Maybe it doesn't. I got put over with a Memorial Hermann outpatient program that since closed down, right? Immediately, this particular outpatient. And that's how I got involved with Memorial Hermann and I stayed there for, almost 9 years. So it worked out like it was supposed to, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's where you and I ran across each other, was
Right.
there and just doing phenomenal work in that program. And I was thinking about that. That was like 5 or 6 years ago, man. It's been a minute.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does. But, yeah, it's awesome. So tell me, in your experience in coming in, oftentimes, like I don't know a single person that has come on the show that we haven't talked, that there was not one or two people that really took them under their wing and really mentored them. And so for you, like, who were those mentors or heroes or people that kind of say, come on here, this is the way you do it?
And there's so many,
Right.
so many. I'm shortchanging so many people, listing one or two. Steve Lewis, a professor at Lone Star, would be my top. Him and his partner Glenn Killian, that they ran the human services department. Those two guys treated me with respect and encouraged me and just showed me they prepared me for this industry as much as I could be prepared. I believe that. And then when I picked it up at Memorial Hermann, I would say a guy named Vaughn Bryant, you probably know Vaughn, I'm sure, and a lady named Bonnie Steele, that whole management team, Susan Dorn, they really, all of them kind of took me under their wing and said, let me show you how to do it the right way, right? The ethical way, the right way. But from a different perspective is when I was an intern at the park, there was a bunch of us. They had a booming intern program. There was 6 or 7 of us at any given time. And everybody was so kind and helpful. Let me show you, let me teach you, except for one dude. One dude, I remember him like it was yesterday. This is why I have a CCS today, because of this guy. He had, I don't know, 700 or 800 hours, which might as well have been a billion for us, right? With 0. We thought he knew everything, right? And this guy was such a jerk to people, man. He wouldn't help anybody, right? And I was like, I will never be that dude. And I remember how kind everybody else was. And I knew right then I wanted to help students. And so, I've since done that, but I because of the one guy that didn't help, there's just so many that did, but I really took that to heart and said, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting that we have different examples along the way, some good, some bad, right?
Oh yeah. I had so many good.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's something that is just it's so heartwarming for me in this field is how many people that I've come across that are just so open and genuine and wanting to help, and not just help our patients, but help people that are coming into the field to do better work, right?
Absolutely. There's a young lady named Jody Berquist who, when I started my practice, was so kind to me in every way. Let me, use an office space that she wasn't in for, I mean, basically free. It wasn't free, but it might as well have been. I mean, and she didn't have to do that. She could have subletted that for a small fortune, right? It was a beautiful office, but she said, I just want to help you. And I've had experience after experience like that. There's so many kind people in this industry that truly are selfless in their helping, and it's been phenomenal.
Absolutely. So let's talk just real quickly about that experience of being at Memorial Hermann's Prevention and Recovery Center, because it's one of the biggest providers in one of the biggest cities in the country, right? And so having the opportunity to be there and to grow there, and then to make that jump into starting your own private practice group, I think that's a real valuable experience that a lot of our viewers out there are either on the fence about doing. They're maybe in the same boat right now. So what were some of the things that you experienced making that jump, that either you took from the park, right, and your time there, and really applied to your private practice? What were some of those?
Everything.
Okay.
Literally, look, I owe that place such a debt of gratitude. That place taught me how to be a professional. It taught me how to be ethical. Not that I needed to be taught how to be ethical, but the one thing you can't take from the park is the ethics. That management team taught me the right way to do things. Now I learned some things I didn't particularly want to do, maybe difference in philosophies, that kind of thing. But that was still a learning point. I really do. I worked as a detox counselor there. I had experience with being an outpatient counselor. Many times I filled in for the residential counselors. I got to know the admissions teams, the business offices, the UR departments. I really got to know how the whole thing works from start to finish. And I wouldn't have had that experience, I don't think, anywhere else. It was a wonderful experience for me. The key to the springboard for the private practice was just organically, I became a marketer for that place, right? We were talking, the marketing manager, Nicole Parker, and I were talking one day in IOP, and just small talk. She was doing a group for us, and we talked, she said, I lost some people. I said, I hear you pay more. Haha, just, I'm a counselor. I don't know anything about marketing, man. And she said, we do. And I just kind of was, again, laughing in tongue in cheek, like, oh, we'll have to talk sometime. Literally, like 2 hours later, Matt Fury called me. It was like, hey, I heard you're interested in the marketing position. We're on board. And it just snowballed from there, right? And then I met, Amber Johnson, who's one of their marketers, and just, we hit it off wonderful. She was such a great teacher. And it was, they just said, look, you're familiar with what we do. You love what we do. Recovery. Just go tell the community. I'm like, what, really? I can do that. That allowed me to meet so many professionals that I would have never had the opportunity to meet. And what else it did for me was it also let me know the facilities themselves, the things I thought I knew about them until I walked on that floor, I didn't know, right? So it was a tremendous experience, and one that I didn't never see coming if you would have asked me 5 years ago, right? And I know when we met, I was doing the outpatient. I was as happy as I could be doing it. Like, it was great. So the marketing role really was a springboard. It was a natural step for private practice for me. It's worked out great.
Right, because you really had to do both sides of it, right? Like, you have to do the providing the services as well as marketing the services, right?
Yeah, and I hate the term marketing because I'm not selling anything, honestly. I'm just providing information at that point of this is the services they offer, they're needed. I don't have to sell it, right? It was an easy transition for me. I loved the work. I loved the people I worked with. It was good. So, that piece is I've learned how valuable that piece is to a center.
Tell me
Go ahead.
what was one of the things that, when you did make that transition, what was one of the challenges that stood out to you you were not expecting? You were like, wow, that's something. How did you get through that? Because anytime we start a new endeavor, there are things that pop up, right? And
Of course.
we're not quite sure of. So what was that? What was one of those things for you?
So one of those things I think would be patience, meaning because no matter what happened in my marketing role, I still got paid, right? I had a check every 2 weeks. I would wake up, check the phone first thing every other Thursday. There it was, never let me down, right? And that was whether I had anybody admit or not. Now I have to take that same marketing strategy, do it for self. And oh yeah, by the way, here's COVID. So we don't want your business cards. We don't want your rack cards. Keep that stuff. We don't want it right now. So it's been a challenge in that, the patience of the people will come. You do solid ethical work, that reputation gets around. And again, going back to the kind people in the industry and the relationships I've built in the marketing role, I've had no problems getting people, right? People refer to me. So that said, it was just being patient and knowing it was going to come, right? And it was going to do what you can do, learn what you can learn. I mean, take the stuff you've learned from the park over the years in the marketing role in particular and apply it right now, right? But I'm not getting anyway. So I think that's really it. Just the patience piece of knowing it's going to be okay, right?
Okay.
It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift a little bit from the business side of it and let's talk about the clinical side. What are some of the things that you're seeing in your in your clinical interaction with patients? Either new modalities or new approaches, things like that you've seen or experienced over the last couple of years that have been real effective for you.
So I've made a giant shift over the last 2 years in particular in my style of thinking, I guess you'd say. I believe in certain things that work and certain things that don't, like all of us. What I found in the recovery industry is we're probably more passionate than any other industry, I feel like. And of course, everybody probably tell you that, but I really do believe that, as in particular, those of us in recovery that's experienced that change are so passionate about what works, right? Because this worked for me, it must work for you, right? Well, slow down, right? So I've had to make that shift from, oh no, you got to go to 7 meetings a week and do this and do that. AA is it, right? That's where you got to go to. Hey, I'd rather you go to 1 meeting a week and be present and be engaged and have that quality interaction than I would you go checking boxes, right? And I've had to separate from, I don't have to tell you what to do. You have to tell you what to do, right? What are you willing to do? And I really try, I've taken a role to truly individualize my care. If you don't look, I tell my people 1 of 2 things will happen. You'll do it or you won't. I'm going to walk with you every step of the way, either way, right? But you will do it or you won't. So it's about finding a puzzle. We're all like puzzles, right? It's about finding the right pieces that fit your puzzle. If it's not AA, that's okay. Let's go to SMART. Well, if it's not SMART, I'm going to go to church. Well, that's fine too, but just do it, right? Take some action. So, I use it, and clinicians hate this, but I use the fly by the seat of my pants theory, right? I use whatever works for whatever person I'm seeing at the time, right? I use a lot of CBT. I find that to be effective with a lot of the co-occurring or a lot of the family. I just find that to be very helpful, but I use a lot of motivational interviewing. I don't worry myself so much with my theoretical orientation as I do my rapport with my clients, right? And do what you're going to do, but just do it, right? I believe that works. I like, we were talking about Drew a little bit before this and how much I respect him and like him, Drew Krieger. And I know he likes a 12-step facilitation model, and so do I. Because I believe that works more than it doesn't. So I mix in that, I mix in whatever works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think too that there was a point for me where I transitioned from believing that there was one style that worked better than others to started to see how there are many different types of patients that are presented to us. And there are many different ways that work to address all of them. And got out of the thinking that there was a right way or wrong way. The doorway is wide open. There's many different entry points, right?
100% couldn't agree more. Like that is we have to individualize care, right? And I noticed over the years it was, oh, well, every place was telling me we'll individualize care, but that just means we change a word on the treatment plan, right? I think more as a whole industry, we're getting on board with truly individualizing those treatment plans. And again, treatment plans are wonderful, and I know they're necessary, and Joint Commission loves them, and that kind of thing. But the reality is, it's just let's do something. What are you willing to do? And my way may not be the way for you, and that's cool too. Let's do it your way, but let's do it with a plan B, and let's just do it, right? So let's do it with the contingency that, I don't want to go to residential. Well, here's the reasons I think there's potential benefit, right? But I'm not here to drag you to residential treatment, right? When you've had enough, you'll go. Well, I want to do outpatient. Well, then do it. Let's get you in there and see what happens. And, it's really about what they're willing to do. And I think a lot of people take that hard stance still of, no, you have to do this, 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 or this. Well, I don't think that works too well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that baffles me when we're talking on a neurological level about really trying to walk with a person as they reestablish that connection to the frontal cortex and really reestablish the neural pathways to higher reasoning. And they need us to be there with them, right? They need us to basically walk with them as they go through that challenge of doing that. And if we're setting up an adversarial relationship, you're telling them what they need to do and this and that. I'm not quite sure if that works better. I think that from what I've seen and heard from a lot of our guests, is that it is our job to support them and walk with them through that time and when they actually do make a change.
That's right.
From what they've always done, right?
Well, that's right. And everything I've learned clinically says just that. Like, statistics are different. Some say 70, some say up to 90% of the counseling relationship is the rapport, or is the relationship. I mean, and there was a dude, and I'm sure you know him, a guy named Chris Crawford, who at the park, this dude was live. That's the nicest thing I can say right there, right? This guy was on fire, running around the facility, but he knew everybody's name. Like, people in there that weren't his people, he knew their names. And these guys, he would walk down the hall and be like, hey, so-and-so, hey, so-and-so, hey, so-and-so. And it was amazing to see because they responded so well. Like, they'll just tell you stuff if you get, just treat them with respect and like human beings, right? You'd be amazed at the stuff they'll tell you. You don't have to have a theoretical orientation for that, at least that piece. Now, don't get me wrong, there's room for theoretical orientations. I don't want to dismiss that. But I'm just saying the rapport is so huge. I don't want to talk to somebody I don't get along with or that's going to fight me at every turn, right? So
Right.
You point out potential benefits and the rest are up to them.
Absolutely. I'm a really big fan of Scott Miller's work, and the heart and soul of change. I think is something that I think everybody should that's in this field should get into and understand, because he talks about the different things that affect an outcome in the therapeutic relationship, and that therapeutic alliance, other than what the person brings into the session before they even walk in the door, that therapeutic alliance really is the biggest impact on that outcome, right?
For sure. And you and I were also speaking a little bit about the Jay's book, Love First. That's a prime example, right? I can still help a family in an intervention process set a boundary to say you can't stay here any longer, but we do it with love. We're not punitive with it, right? It's a choice they're making, and that's a great book also that really highlights that love first perspective. So yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely. So tell me, let's shift a little bit on this. That we are. You're in your office there. I'm in my home here. We're doing this virtual interaction here, which I would much prefer to be doing in person. But we've all had to shift because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've all really had to adjust the way we work and conduct our business. So, what are some of the ways that you've adapted during this time? What technologies are you using? How are you reaching your clients or your patients during this time?
So man, that's a great question. And just like a lot of us, the teletherapy platform has been a godsend. True story though, I was using some of that marketing experience, right, that I gained at the park, and there was a DFW symposium scheduled just prior to this happening, this COVID, right? I use a platform called Simple Practice, does all my notes, HIPAA compliant, wonderful billing, but it's got this platform I use, right, that it provides that platform. So I was going to go to Dallas and market that and start that 2 weeks prior to COVID. And of course, everything shut down. So I was prepared to start the teletherapy because I thought, man, why not reach more people in Texas, right? and just forced me into it. So I think it's been both a blessing and a curse, kind of, because of course I always prefer in-person interaction. That you just, I do, right? Now the research tells me this works the same. My heart tells me I'd rather be in person, right? Um, so that being said, I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to this does work, right? And so it is an option, especially for those that while the counseling session's an hour, if you're in Houston here, I'm at the Beltway and I-10. If you're in the Galleria, depending on time of day, you're 3 hours deep with that hour
Yeah.
for an hour session, right? And that can be a barrier for people coming to see you. So, there's all kinds of options. I see a lot of people in sober living homes that don't have transportation. So I think in that regard that this telehealth has been wonderful. Again, I'm in the office 2 days right now, and I'm at home for 2 days. And I'm as careful as I can, but you know how that is as well. So, we do what we can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're talking about the DFW symposium, I'm a real big fan of Rick Hubbard up there and the work that he's done and really cultivating that event. Yeah, I think we were all in the same boat earlier this year trying to figure out how we're going to pivot and get
That's
that
right.
out there, and also, like you said, look, I've been in that same stretch of 610 over there by the Galleria and spent many an hour just sitting there. And
Yeah, it's not nice.
no, man, that car turns into your office for about 3 hours, yeah, it can definitely benefit some of the technology to be able to reach one another. And something else I see as well. You're there in Houston. I'm out here in Boise, Idaho, and out here there's so many patients that come in and they have just a wonderful experience in a residential setting, but then they don't have the ability to just stay in that community wherever they've gone to residential. A lot of them have to go back to these rural parts of the country, and so being able to have this telehealth be a real part of people's programming, it's really opened up access. I see to people that normally wouldn't be able to just jump into town to do an IOP, right?
Agreed.
Or
Agreed.
continued care. So that's something. What are some other things that you're seeing in this time that maybe are new and fresh, that maybe were unexpected?
The ability of a group of us to come together, the AA community in particular, being able to rally and make this work. And now, what's really cool in that regard is you're getting to go to these meetings all over the country and the world. I've talked to clients who attended meetings in Australia. I'm like, well, what are you doing up that late? It's got to be the time difference, got to be right. But all that said is like New York and Georgia and California, like it's opened these meetings up. And I'll tell you what, one of the best things is there's a treatment center here in Houston called the Heights Treatment. Love those guys, right? And I send all my families to their family groups because they're Zoom. My families are absolutely on board with that, right? Joni Ogle does one out of California. It's phenomenal on Thursday. Oh yeah, right. Love Joni Ogle. How do you not?
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge bonus that they probably wouldn't engage in a family program. Now, these are people I just see as individuals, may not have even gone to treatment, right? But I have the ability now to send this family to this family group that they're gracious enough to open to the public. That's been a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many times in a family program have you talk to the family, they're on board, they really want to be a part of it, but they just can't like physically be there. And now it's open to them. They have the opportunity to come and so the family system can heal.
Yeah, it's a great gift.
Yeah, just phenomenal. So talk to me a little bit. Talk to me about this teaching thing that you're doing, because
thank you. Yeah.
You talk about all these different things. I see your eyes light up when you talk about teaching.
Man, look here. When people say they're not doing something for the money, I always question that, right? Like, we got to eat, we got to have a lifestyle, we got to get paid, we have to know our worth. So, I love what I do, but I want to get paid, right? Let's be honest. Yeah. I didn't even know what I was getting paid till 4 months in, or four weeks in. Like, I didn't care. I wanted to put it on my resume and say, oh, I've been a professor here, right, at this cool school. Dude, I have fallen in love with this. I teach a multicultural counseling class at the University of St. Thomas, and I've literally fallen in love with it. It's probably my favorite thing I do. As we were talking a little bit, I was talking with some colleagues about we just take for granted the things we know in this field, like basic stuff that we just all interact with each other and we all know, right? These guys don't know, and it's so cool to be able to just share this information, this knowledge, this experience that I've gained, and maybe save someone a hardship, or maybe just catch them early enough where they can shift their thinking to the truly individualizing care or whatever their path leads them. But it's very interesting, and to watch them, part of their one of their assignments was to write a paper, interview someone from a different culture.
Hmm.
Dude, phenomenal. These guys really dove into this thing, and they're like, I wanted them to look at their bias, right? Like we all have that. Like, and therapists are not immune to that, unfortunately. And they didn't, we know that in the field, we talk about self-care constantly. These guys don't realize that. And it was just been really a neat experience. And I just love it.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that because, yeah, especially with how divided that we seem to be at this
Right.
point in our country, at least. One thing I have seen in the younger generation is just how open they are. How it's phenomenal that they don't see color like previous generations do, and I think that's just an amazing benefit and something that we're really going to reap the benefits of going forward.
Absolutely. And, in the counseling profession in particular, again, the old mentor Steve Professor would say, God makes the mix. We just get to work with it, right? We don't know who's walking through that door, right? And so if I'm not equipped to help them in some way, I better have a resource that is. That's our responsibility, right? As clinicians and as people in this industry, as helpers, right? I can't do it all, nor do I want to, right? There's things I'm better at than others. I specialize in substance use disorders. Those are my people. That's who I want to see, them and their families, right? And if somebody says, well, I don't really have that issue, I have a wealth of therapists to send them to, right? Well, then I'm probably not the best fit for you. Let me get some information and send you to someone else. So it's super important that we have that, because we don't know who's coming in.
Yeah, one thing that I do see often is people that have been in private practice for a long period of time have their kind of the old go-tos, right? That they've been, they've got 3 or 4 people that they have a relationship with that they've been going to for years and referring people to for years. Do you think it's important for them to broaden the horizon and keep that referral network kind of fresh and always look to see what's new?
Absolutely, it is. And I know we're all busy, but this is again something I learned in the marketing role, is how valuable the networking events are, the CEUs. I know we're busy. It's just so important to get out and interact with other therapists, right? Because yes, we do have those go-tos, and I love my go-tos because they're my go-tos for a reason, right? That said, I had one in particular I'll share, who I send adolescents to, who was like, bro, can you find another resource? Like, it wasn't being ugly. It was just like, I'm so full. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, wait, no. What am I supposed? And it turns out I had gone to an event at the park to meet their counselors and their IOP, and there was an adolescent guy there in the Woodlands. And it worked out phenomenal. And I picked up this resource who's phenomenal with adolescents, right? And I've already sent somebody that way. So I think that's key, is continue to broaden those horizons and meet new people.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this, like, what's new on your horizon that's like getting you fired up? What are you excited about coming like down the pike or moving forward?
Man, the intervention work right now is picking up, and I was telling you earlier, I love that. Of course, again, I say that about everything I do right now, man. I'd say I told someone I would give up my practice to do intervention work full time, but then I'm like, no, because I love that one-on-one interaction too in the office. And then I'm like, well, the teaching, if it paid more, I would do. No, then I love the intervention work too much. So I'm just going to continue to grow and take on. If you would have asked me a year ago about being a professor, I would have laughed and like, what? Like, a marketer before what? Like, I'm just going to be open to whatever comes my way. right? And right now, I'm pretty full. My plate, in a good way, is full with the practice, the intervention work, and I am taking on another teaching job at Lone Star as well, though. That's kind of where it all started for me. So that's a bit sentimental, full circle type thing for me. So yeah, that's what's coming up. But I'm gonna keep moving like it's going right now with the intervention work, the therapy, and the teaching. Seems to be working well.
Right on, man. Hey,
Yeah.
it's always a pleasure. I really enjoy talking with you. And is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience before we call it quits and go celebrate Thanksgiving?
Yeah, man, just be kind to each other, man. It's so easy, right? Everybody's in a hurry and everybody's in a rush, and I would say, just to what we were talking about a bit ago, with meet each other, reach out to people, go revisit places that you already know, right? Because they may have changed, they may have done some things. Get to know your local marketers and build relationships with them, because they're going to be helpful for you down the pike. And just keep helping people, man. That's what we do, and just do you.
Right on, man. I really appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up on the screen. If you'd like to get in touch with Dan and say hello, I put his information up there. You can reach out to him, and I encourage people to do that. The people that come on the show here are mentors. They're people that are doing the work. And if you have a question, please reach out to them and say hello.
Hey, I do got to correct one thing I noticed.
Yes.
I'm not an LPC. I'm an LPC associate, which there's a huge difference, and I just don't want to mislead anybody in that regard. But yeah, it looks nice.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's see, before we close, I do want to remind everybody that Perspectives at Time for Change conference is still available. If you guys are still needing to get your CEUs for 2020, you can go online at perspectivesattimeforchange.com and see some phenomenal speakers, and you will get continuing education credits. But more importantly, like some of the stuff that Dan and I have talked about today is really explained in detail there, and some of these mentors and heroes that are really doing the work have been so awesome to come on and share their experience and their data on there. And so definitely go check that out, perspectivesattimeforchange.com. And so with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I want to thank our sponsors once again, Southworth Associates and Dreamscape Marketing, for allowing us to be here. We're really grateful to them for allowing us to put on the show. Also, if you guys join us next Wednesday, I've got Annette Kachumian. She's going to come on. She's the founder of RE Recovery in Southern California. And she has such a good energy about her. I'm really excited to have her on the show. But once again, from us to you guys out there, just have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy your family and this holiday time together safely. And we hope to see you guys next week. So with that, we'll go ahead and close. Dan, thank you once again for being on the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys have a good afternoon.